predicts the things. Like if you are trying to do a task now, it is one step ahead where it predicts what you are going to do the next level. So that's how the AI works. I would say like it's a mini set of codes. So you develop a lot of code within and put in the workflow, everything into one particular plugin. It's as simple as you plug in that bring that plugin into your browser, start using it. I think all of you would have heard about Anthropic recently in the news. They have developed a lot of plugins. So, like for example, they have. I mean, it's threatening as well because the moment a plugin is being developed, the entire workflow it takes over, and that particular work is being completely automated. So, for example, lawyers are there. So they have developed a plugin for law. They never thought like somebody has to go through the complex terminology in the law, how you want to defend everything. So they have developed end-to-end flow so that you don't need, at the end, what they are saying is from Anthropic side, they are saying that you may not need lawyers in future because you just you ask the question, yeah, you want, somebody I thought they are asking the question. I thought, okay, yeah. So that's how the AI is about. So now next gen computing and AI relation to data warehousing. So this is the topic which I want to discuss in detail. Before going into the relation, so I would say, yeah. Next gen computing is a transforming the data warehousing from static storage into intelligent data platforms that power autonomous AI applications. So data warehouse is a storage environment for storing all the data. Rather than just holding the data, modern data warehouse are actively manage, optimize, and learn from. It provides real-time predictive insights. So these things you will understand once we understand what data warehousing means and what it used to do. That's why we'll get into the details of the data warehouse first, and then we'll come back to this point of how the next-gen AI, next-gen computing and AI integrates with the data warehousing. Yep. Next slide. So data warehousing, what exactly data warehousing is? So there is a idiom as well that says data is the new currency, data is the new oil. So there are terminologies like this. So whenever we say data is the new oil, data is the new currency, because everything in the world relies on the data. So every day you might be using these chat GPTs or maybe the Twitter and everything. You might be posting a lot of things on Instagram. So everything is a data. So people started realizing the value of the data, and they thought they can do a lot of things about by using this data. So once you process the data, you can really come to know what kind of person you are, what exactly you do. They can decide, they can understand as well like what exactly you are trying to get into, what you are up to and everything. So that is why data is such a important thing, especially in the social engineering world, with all the Twitter posts and Instagram posts and everything. So that's why data warehousing comes into picture. So what exactly data warehousing? So there are two things which are related to data. One is OLTP. When we say OLTP, it's online transaction processing. So this is the place where the actual transaction processing happens. So this is more like a front end where you enter the data. So the people who are maintaining the applications, they use the OLTP much. So they just enter the data, and then at the back end the code runs and it processes the data. But at the same time, there is something called as OLAP, which is online analytical processing. So what exactly it does is it stores all the data in a specific format and in a specific area, so that the data can be analyzed later on. Because like for example, you are at a bank teller counter and you ask something, then the person in the bank, he will enter some data on the screen, and then you cannot keep analyzing at that same point of time, right? Because the customer who has come to the bank may not have the time to wait till you process your analysis and everything. So they, like for example, they want to suggest something, that you take this product, that product, and they want to give some suggestions. So they cannot process on the time, on the spot, because it will take some time to do all those things. That's where the OLAP came into picture. So they will be storing all the data related to you in a specific environment, and that is what is called as the data warehouse. So data warehouse comes into the online analytic processing. So it stores the data, it stores in a specific format. It's not like the randomly it is stored, because randomly stored data doesn't make much sense. You have to get some insights out of the data. That's why data is being processed in a data warehouse, stored in a data warehouse, and it is being processed, it's being analyzed, and multiple things can come out of that. And that will help the business to understand what, as a customer, you are expecting from the particular company, and accordingly they will suggest you, okay, you can go for this, you can go for that. So data warehousing, there are like for example, if you see on the right side, we have these three components of the data warehouse. So what exactly we need? We need a database. The database, when we say, it's a storage environment. It stores the data in all these environments. Like at the top you see Hadoop. Hadoop is a file-based structure. So it stores the data in files. And then Teradata is a relational database. So it stores the data in the database. And Oracle is also a relational database. So it stores the data tables and SQL Server. So all the three are the relational databases. So it stores the data in these databases. So for a data warehouse, database is equally important. And one thing I did not mention in this slide is about the cloud. So all these things used to be there on premises, as we discussed in the couple of slides back. So all these things used to be there on premises, but now everything is being hosted on the cloud. So that's where the maintenance of these databases will go away, and the maintenance cost, maintaining the databases, you have to pay. For example, I am taking these many terabytes of Oracle server or Teradata server. I have to pay for the company because of taking the so much terabytes of data. But now that is being hosted on the cloud. Cloud is very cheap. So that, and what used to happen is that you have to keep having maintenance for this data. There are like backups that you have to take, so that if something fails, then the backups will be coming into picture. So it's not like just one instance you are maintaining multiple instances. That incurs a lot of cost.
Ajay.
Whereas if you host it on cloud, all that maintenance will be going away, and that will be handled by the company hosting the clouds. So cloud, as you know, right, we have multiple companies who are offering the cloud capabilities like AWS from Amazon, Azure from Microsoft. So all these companies offer the cloud services, so we can use whatever we want, which fits our needs. So data architecture is the next one. So once you decide the database, which type of database you want to use, then data architecture comes into picture, because what data architecture does is it stores the data in a particular format. It organizes the data. You might be randomly giving some lot of data, but then it needs to be organized in a way so that you can get output in the desired way, whatever you want. And then there is an ETL process which says extract, transformation, and loading. So it extracts the data from the system or the application, and then it transforms based on some rules, and then finally loads the data in the database. And then finally the reporting. So reporting is the place where you see the data at the end. So you see it on a particular report. So for example, you might have an Excel sheet which might be having your student numbers, student name, and what course the students is doing, what all courses the students have completed. So that is where the reports can be generated out of this data. And on the left hand side, you see the different roles related to this, which we spoke about. So business analyst, he is the person who understands the business requirements. So whenever you start a data warehouse, you have to understand the requirements. And who is giving the requirements? It's the business team. So business team gives the requirements in business perspective. So they will be saying in their own business terms. And then what this business analyst does is, the person transforms those requirements from business perspective into an IT terminology. That's the role of a business analyst. So once the business analyst is done, then there is a data architect who understands these requirements from the business analyst and organizes the data, creates the data model, organizes it, and then stores the data. And then give command to the ETL team. So the ETL team, they will They will create the code, they write the programs, they extract the data, they transform the data, and then they finally load it. So that's where the ETL developer comes into picture. And data visualization specialist, the person is involved with the reporting. So this person has the ability to how to show the data. So they understand how well to show the data and as per the requirements from the senior executives of the organization. So data architecture, we will get into more details on how we want to organize the data. So there are different approaches of handling the data and storing the data in an organized way. So it's called like top-down approach, bottom-up approach, and then we will get into the actual modeling aspect of the data as well. So top-down approach, when I say top-down approach, I'm starting a data warehouse from scratch for the first time. So let's say I get into an agreement, a technology company is getting agreement with some bank. The bank will say, okay, I want to store the data and I want to analyze the data, understand it, and then finally want to see how to grow my business so that it can help me in understanding the customer's perspectives and then what exactly can be done to grow my business. So what will be done is like, because it's being developed for the first time, the company may be talking about a high level. Then what we do, like we go for a top-down approach where we understand the company business. We'll ask with the organization. Let's say we are creating a warehouse for the bank. So what type of things will be there in a bank? There will be a customer who is coming to the bank, and then there is the bank on its own. So customer will be coming, and then bank has its own operations. It has its own set of employees, and they have their own real estates and like their trading offices across the places. So these are two different things. From a business perspective, there will be a customer whom you want to handle, and then there is a bank on its own which has its internal employees and everything whom they want to maintain. So now coming to the customer perspective, what type of customers can I have? So as a bank, I might have a retail customer. When I say retail customer, you and me are kind of retail customers. We open a bank account and then we save our money in the bank and then we hold the money there. But there may be commercial organizations also, like a particular company want to take a loan from a bank. So that is a commercial organization. So now the customers can be split into two types. One is a retail customer, other one is a commercial customer. And then coming to the bank own operations, the operations will be having a lot of things like generally they maintain a ledger. There will be a sub ledger, there will be a general ledger. So what we will do is like in the top-down approach, we will be listing all those things, what exactly constitutes the bank's business. So all those things we will constitute, and then we will get into the details of those each and every individual unit, so that we can finally get into the storage of the data. Whereas in a bottom-up approach, what happens in a bottom-up approach? Already there is a warehouse that is already existing. So let's say, for example, HDFC Bank. So you might have seen recently that HDFC has two things on its own, like there is a finance business as well, and then they have a bank also. So what happened? They have merged both of these things. They merged the HDFC Bank with the HDFC Finance arm. The finance arm was giving the home loans, whereas the HDFC Bank was taking up the commercial and retail businesses. So they merged both. The decision, the committee of the chairman of the board, they have taken decision that they will merge these two entities to create a single largest bank, and RBI has approved that one. So now what happens is, in this scenario, HDFC already has its own data warehouse, which is more on the home loan business, and HDFC Bank was already having its own data warehouse where it used to have the commercial and retail data warehouse businesses. So now when these two entities merge, then the data warehouse also need to be merged, because after the merger there will be a single unit that will be operating, and you cannot have two different warehouses. The important thing in a data warehouse is single source of truth. You need to have data at one place, and that should be the single source of truth. You cannot have if I ask for a particular amount, I cannot have two different places storing the data, because let's say if I have my savings account, and then somebody try to pull up the amount in the savings account, what the balance is, I cannot have two different data warehouse where One place it's storing the savings account having 1 lakh rupees, and other place it is having savings account as a 10,000 rupees. That cannot happen because that defeats the source of truth. So that's why we need to have single place where the data need to be stored. And that's where this bottom approach happen when we integrate the two entities. So what we do is like we talk to the executives of the banks and the finance arm, both of them, and we'll ask them, okay, what are you currently seeing from your reporting perspective? What kind of reports are you seeing? So, for example, the company declares the quarterly results, right? They might be saying, I have this much of operating income, this much of profit I am having. How are all those metrics coming up? It's the summarization of the data at the granular level into a rolled up level. So those kind of things we'll try to understand from the executives of both the units, and we'll try to then integrate. So here what we are saying is we are seeing the reports first, what the management wants, and then we will try to take it up to the next level. We'll summarize it a little bit up, go into next level, and then from there we summarize it and finally come to the conceptual model. So to create those things, right? So first step is the conceptual model, logical subject area model, logical model, physical model. So the different stages of the data architecture. So when I say conceptual model, it will be at a very, very high level. What is the organization about? What kind of things it does from a business perspective. So as I said, like if it is a bank, it will be having a customer, it will be having an account. So at a conceptual level, it will be just like two boxes which says one is customer, other one is account. But once we get into the subject area model, what will happen is I will be expanding my customer entity in the logical model. What will a customer have? Customer will have a name, customer will have an address, customer will have his or her own identification. So those all things comes into the subject area model. So I will be expanding the customer entity into multiple small tables there. So I will say customer as a big block. Within the customer, I will have customer name and other information, and then customer address is one information, customer identification is another information. So I will split the customer into multiple areas. Same with the account. When I get into the account, I will be saying account can be two types. It can be a savings account, it can be a checking account, and then if it is a commercial account, whether there is a bank which is operating or is a commercial unit that is operating. So when I start initially, I will have an account as an entity from a conceptual model perspective, but that account will be again split into savings accounts, checking account, and commercial loans. It will be again account can be having either is a deposit or it can be a loan. So I might be depositing the amount with the bank, or I might be taking loan with the bank. At the same time, I might be having a credit card linked to the bank. So all these things will be expanded into the subject area model. So within the subject area model, we'll be coming up with all those things. Then comes the logical model. So when I say okay, customer, within customer I have customer name, customer address, customer identification. Then what are the attributes that the customer name will have? The customer name will have multiple attributes: full name, it will be having first name, last name, middle name, and then we'll be giving customer one identification. So customer ID will be there, and it will be all these things will be stored. Then the customer address, when I talk about the customer address, I might be having multiple addresses. So one address might be here in Vijayawada, one address might be in Hyderabad. So I might be actually from Vijayawada, but I might be staying in Hyderabad. So I might have a permanent address, I have a communication address. So all these things will be mentioned in the logical model. So we'll be mentioning the addresses, what type of address it is, and then accordingly mentioning the data. So same with the accounts. Like when I get into the account, savings account, what all it will have? It will have an account number. It will have the amount in the savings account, and then it will have the end date of the savings account, and then same with the checking account, like whether it is a zero balance account or not. So all those things come into the attributes of the account itself. So the logical model, what will happen is the entities which you have come up with lower granular entries in the subject area model, those entities will be assigned attributes. So all those attributes will be holding the data, each and every. The attribute, you can simply say it's like a column in a table. It stores the data on its own. Then comes the physical model. So when we say physical model, it has to be created in the database itself. So whatever database we have chosen, it may be Oracle, or it may be Teradata or any other database which you have chosen. Accordingly, within those tables, you have to give the table name. So I will be saying that customer as a table name, customer underscore address as the address table, customer underscore identification as the customer identification. So all those physicalization of the data happens, and then the column names also will change. I will say like first name, last name, like that in the customer in this logical model. But when it comes to the physical model, it will be like full underscore name, or first underscore name, last underscore name. Those kind of attribute naming convention comes into picture in a physical model. So now once the data architecture is being done, we decided like what all tables and entities and the structures will be there, and then what attributes will be there in each and every entity and table, and then what are the column names and everything. Now we have to start loading the data in these tables. So there are two ways which we process the data. It is extract, transform, and load versus extract, load, and transform. So what happens is when I get the data from the actual application where you are storing the data, where you are gathering the data will be extracted and it is placed in an environment, and then it will be transformed. You might be applying some rules, because if I exactly store the data as it is, whatever I get, then that may or may not make some sense sometimes. So we will be transforming the data. We will be applying some rules. So for example, one customer is there. The customer has two account numbers. So I will say, and then the customer want to see, okay, I have two accounts with the bank, but I want to see the total combined balance across the two accounts. So what I will do, I will be writing some code here saying that take the customer number as the primary thing, and then sum of the amounts in both the accounts that the customer has, so that I can show the total amount that is there in the customer, for the customer with the bank, in a single column. So those kind of rules will be operated, and then finally the program will be executed. So you will be writing some queries and then executing the program so that the data can be stored in the database. Whereas in case of extract, load, and transform, what happens is you extract the data and you directly load it. Later on the transformation happens. Whatever summarizations, whatever other things we want to do, those things will be happening in the transform area. So that's the load strategy, which is playing a critical role. Whether I want to store the data as a full data set, if I get the data completely every day, or if I get an incremental data. So let's say in the bank example of the bank, today there are 100 customers. Tomorrow a new customer comes, one customer. So how will I get that data from the application? Whether I get the only one customer data tomorrow who is newly added, or whether I will get all the 101 customers at a shot. So that is what is the load strategy. It is the full data or incremental data, whatever you want to load and transform, and all those things. So that load strategy, according to that one, there will be a lot of metrics that will be coming in picture, and the way the metrics are computed will differ. Then orchestration. So this is where because we are creating batch jobs. So in case of data warehouse, the data is not real time. It is being run in batches. So the banking hours that happens from 9 to 5 every day, right? Once the banking hours are those are the business hours. So during the nightly batch cycle, you extract the data and then you load it into the data warehouse. So data warehousing is most of the times a batch jobs that generating during the off business hours. So that is where the orchestration comes in. So all the processing, whatever we have discussed, all the programs we have created, everything will be running. The data will be extracted after the business hours, and all this processing will be done, and it will be kept ready by, let's say, before the business hours, so that the executive management, whoever they want to see, those people can see the latest data. So it's like a nightly batch of sale that will happen. There will be multiple jobs. So you have to organize the jobs on a sequential basis with all the dependencies and everything. So those all tools and technologies are there. Depending on the business requirement, how much big my data is, what kind of environment I want to host, how much I am able to spend as an organization, or based on all those decisions, we'll be deciding which database we want to use, which ETL tool we want to use, whether it is cost effective or not. Everything plays a role in identifying the tools and technologies. Then the data presentation. So it's not enough if we just store the data, right? If it is not being used by anyone. So that is where the data presentation becomes critical because data might be seeing at a lower level. So the reporting and presentation of the data plays a critical role. So there we need to connect with the corresponding people who want to see the reports and understand from them the reporting the requirements. What level you want to see. So the data can be either summed up, it can be rolled up, it can be sliced, it can be diced, so it can be disintegrated. So whatever data we have stored in the data warehouse, it can be used in whatever way we want. That requirement should come from the particular organizations, executives, and other people who are using the data. But at the same time, it's not always the same set of reports because if I show a high level reports to an executive who is working at a lower level, that may not, he or she may not make sense. Right? So they want to understand at a low level. They want to see what they are doing. Accordingly, they want to see the reports. That's where the reporting comes into picture. And what is this ad hoc reporting? Ad hoc reporting is something like generally, as I said, at an organization level, if a dean want to see what all departments are there, how many faculty are there in each of these departments, then suddenly the dean might be having some question on a particular day that I want to see something else. Apart from the what is being given regularly to me, I have some different question. So then we provide the, from a data warehousing perspective, there is an ability for the person to generate their own report. So it's not a pre-built or a pre-customized report. It's something that has come up ad hoc and they decide on the spot that I want to see these metrics and other things. So that's where the ad hoc reporting comes into picture and we create the structures needed for that one so that the data can be reported at that level. Then the trend analysis. So what exactly happens here is like the data that is being stored. We want to see the trend, like what happened. So today, if I take ICICI Bank, Bank might be having, let's say 1 lakh people as a customers. Then I want to see like over the period of time, like in Q1 of 2026, how many people, how many customers join, Q2, how many people join, Q3, how many people we were able to take as customers. So if that kind of trend I want to see, whether it is growing on quarter and year on year, the trend is what the executives at a higher level want to see because that tells me whether the business is growing or it's not growing, whether it is falling, whether my income levels, whether my deposit levels are falling, how much I am giving as loans, how much I am seeing as deposits. So all those things will be showing the trend analysis. That will be very, very important for the organization to make decisions because let's say I want to see the ICICI Bank Vijayawada, how is it operating today, and maybe in Hyderabad, how is it operating today. And if I feel over a period of time for 1-2 years, if the business is not growing as expected in Hyderabad, as a organization executive, I might take a decision. Okay, I will stop the business in Hyderabad. I will focus more on Vijayawada only because it's growing. So for all those things, we need this trend analysis to be developed. Then again, for this data presentation also, we need tools and technologies. Like we have business objects, which I think is from SAP. From SAP, they have this product being developed. Business objects is a universe. And then click view. All these things are different tools and technologies, which are used for the data presentation. Okay, coming to data quality and governance. So this is one of the key pillars of the data because data that we are getting from the actual front-end application is not sanitized data because there are a lot of things that might happen on a hurry because there's a customer waiting in front of me asking to input some data and I might be inputting something like for example, I might be giving the first name and last name in a reverse way. So if I'm Sridhar Chandrapati, probably they might take my first name as Chandrapati and second name as Sridhar because they are in a hurry. They don't want to lose the customer and they don't want to keep waiting the customer. They will enter something. The main goal is to ensure that the work is being done for the customer and the customer goes away satisfied. But what happens is when we bring this data into the data warehouse, we notice that okay, this doesn't look like a second name, this doesn't look like a first name, something happened at the wrong end. So we will correct that in the data warehouse. We'll connect with the front-end application people and ask them whether you entered them wrongly, and then we'll correct in the data warehouse. So those data quality rules, for example, I said like there is an account of 123. account number 123 in a bank. It, it's a given rule that account cannot exist without a customer, because if the account is there, the immediate question I will ask is whose account it is. So that customer need to be there. So that is one rule which we process. It's a data quality rule, we will say. So there cannot be any account existing without a customer. Those kind of rules we will formulate, and then we will we will run the code to see whether there are any outliers. So if I have a customer, if I have an account with a customer, without a customer, it's an orphan account. What is it doing? And especially that becomes critical if the account is holding a lot of money, right? So whose amount is it? It becomes a question, and that might throw a lot of questions to the organization also. So that is where we form all those rules. That is what we say referential integrity checks. And then there can be duplicates. So one account number, if it is given, account number is unique for one customer, right? You cannot have the same account number assigned to two different customers. So that is a problem. So at the front end, they might do a mistake and store the data wrongly. But then we will inform back to the business team saying that you have given the same account number by mistake, you need to correct it. So that is where the data quality and governance becomes important. And what happens is, in a big organizations, we have data stewards. What data stewards means, like for example, in a banking industry, I have a commercial business, retail business. There is one person who understands commercial business well. There is one person who understands retail business well. It cannot happen that most of the times there is one single person who knows everything in detail, right? That's why we give the data stewards based on their particular domain which they are looking at. Then comes the data masking. Why do we need data masking? Because there are some confidential information which we are giving to the bank. Like for example, your Aadhaar number. So if you give Aadhaar number, it cannot be shown to everybody in the bank, right? Everybody in the bank sees the Aadhaar number, they might misuse it. We never know how and what the person will do with the data. So data masking comes into picture based on how we want to whom we want to show the data. So if I have the bank chairman or the bank CEO, I cannot go and tell him that no, you cannot see the Aadhaar number, right? Because he has the authority to show it. But at the same time, if I have a accounting person who is there in the lowest level in the organization, the accounting person may not need the Aadhaar number for any purposes, right? So for them, what we will do is we create different rules and roles also. So I will create one role. Role is as good as your ID which we use to enter into the particular environment. For example, you have your student ID, right? Using student ID, if you get into the KL University website, you might be seeing what courses are there. You might be seeing some content in the website, but you will not be seeing what is the salary of other person. Like what is the salary of a particular lecturer or a professor is there. Those kind of things you don't need it. So we cannot expose the data to you. So what happens for this particular student ID, when you log in into the KL University website, you will not be having that ability to see. So the data will be masked. You will not be allowed. So that's where we create roles and accordingly assign the data. So PII data, it means the personal information. So as we discussed, like date of birth or address. So there are few fields which are really critical from a personal sensitive information perspective. So I don't want a person, everybody in the world to know probably my date of birth, because it can be misused. So date of birth combined with the name and address becomes a really highly sensitive information. So this is where banks are coming up with the rules as well on how to handle the data. Especially in the Europe, if you see, their rules are very strict. There is something called as GDPR, where they have very strict rules. If you by chance miss those sensitive information and expose it, they will levying heavy penalties on the organizations as well. Then there are a lot of tools and technologies through which you can have the data quality and governance, like Colibra, IoTaho, everything. So one thing, if you notice, except for data architecture, whether it is ETL or whether it is reporting or whether it is data quality and governance, everywhere you have tools and technologies. But data architecture is one thing which we need domain knowledge. What we say domain knowledge, it is the knowledge about the industry for which you are developing the data warehouse. So I might be creating a data warehouse for a bank, I might be creating data warehouse for a aircraft industry, I might be creating a data warehouse for maybe some big shops like Walmart. So it depends on what kind of customer it is for whom we are developing the data warehouse. So for them, we need to know for whoever is working as a data architect and a data modeler, they need to have that domain knowledge, otherwise they will not be able to organize the data properly. So for data architecture, it's the domain knowledge and conceptual knowledge that is important. But whereas when it comes to the ETL and reporting and data governance, everywhere you have tools and technologies. So tools and technologies keep changing every day. They are very dynamic. So today one particular tool might be there, tomorrow it may not be used by anybody. They keep on changing everything. It's a continuous evolution process. But the concept behind that, the domain knowledge is really critical. That will stay forever. So now, having spoken about the data warehousing, what all it does and what it does, let's try to understand what the role of AI in the data warehousing is. So, as we said, like AI is getting integrated everywhere at all the places. So some of the important things it is like automatically tune indexes, manage workloads, scale resources based on demand. So what it means is like, so if you have gone through the Oracle tables, right? When I create a table in Oracle, it might be having indexes. Why indexes are used? To retrieve the information fast. So if I'm trying to query a table and get the data using some SQL query, that retrieving the data might take sometimes a long time. Why it is happening? Because probably you may not have defined an index on the table. So the indexes plays an important role in those kind of relational databases. So what happens is AI today has the ability, if I run a query and then let's say the query output is taking, let's say it used to run for 1 minute and suddenly after few days it's taking like 1 hour to retrieve the data. So that is being noticed by AI automatically. So what it happens is it immediately thinks, okay, probably that the index is not defined, or the index that is being defined is not properly defined and right column is not taken as an index. So it does all this. The AI has that ability to automatically understand these things and it tunes the indexes accordingly. That's what we say, automatically tuning indexes. Then managing workloads. So when we say workloads, I'm running a batch job to store the data. So that entire workflow might be taking 2 hours. So it will see like managing the workloads as we spoke in the orchestration, right? I might have to run the account customer job first and then the accounting job for later, the sequence. So if there is something that is not followed properly and then the data is getting distorted, so the AI has the ability to accordingly understand that, okay, this series, the sequence of the jobs execution is not correct, we have to change it and we have to run the customer job first and then the accounting job first. So those are all places where AI automatically understands and it takes care. Otherwise it needs manual intervention. We will come to know maybe after 1 month, 2 months that, okay, for last 1 month I have been running wrongly, but it should have been run like this. By the time the damage would have happened. So AI has this ability to automatically understand and manage the workloads. Scale resources. So when I say scale resources, for example, I don't know how many of you know about Snowflake. It's a new database that has come in picture recently. It's a cloud-based database. So in Snowflake, we have a concept called as a warehouse size. So I can choose the warehouse size as small, medium, large. Depending on the size of the warehouse, the data retrieval will be accordingly having its own time. If I'm running a query, select star query on a particular table, I might be using a small data warehouse. But if I am running a big query for 1,000 lines, I might be using a large data warehouse. Because otherwise what will happen is small data warehouse, it might take a long time to retrieve the result. But the moment I increase the warehouse size to large, it will throw me the result within minutes. So what it is happening is we need to manually change depending on the requirement we have currently. But then when we introduce the AI into this one, it understands on its own. Okay, the person is running a query on a table which is having large data. So it automatically increases the warehouse size from small to medium on to the large. It understands how many rows of data being retrieved, how much information is being retrieved. Accordingly, it increases data warehouse size. Or if by mistake I am using large data warehouse, for a simple select star on a table which is having 10 rows of data, it will automatically reduce the data warehouse size. Because the benefit what we are getting based on the warehouse size, the cost is being paid by the organization to Snowflake. So that cost also increases. If you use large data warehouse size, the cost will be more. So you don't want to lose the benefit, right? So if you want to see the profits, then accordingly the warehouse size need to be used properly. So those we cannot keep changing manually, where AI can automatically do it on its own based on the understanding the needs. Then coming to the automated data pipelines, automatically mapping data, detecting schema changes, cleaning records significantly. So there might be some records which are not needed to be deleted, or sometimes you might want to archive the data because it's a old data, you may not need it on a daily basis. So what happens is this archival happens and then you put it on a back burner only when you need it to bring it again. So all this archival and everything can be automatically done using AI. Okay, so here try to put together how the data warehouse and with the AI integration it happens. So as you can see at the top, they are AI powered dashboards. So during the data representation we have seen, right, these are reporting tools like Tableau, ClickView, Power BI. So what happens? AI it creates the dashboards. It understands the customer's requirements and it accordingly creates the dashboards. The way data is presented, I want to see some anomalies in red color and I want to see all the profits that are happening in green color. Those all things currently, if I am creating a Tableau dashboard or a Power BI dashboard, I have to manually select the color which I have to show, so that it conveys the information that okay, red is the information where I have to focus and take some actions. Green is doing good. So that those all things are being given as a requirement today, and the developer of the Tableau or Power BI dashboards, those people accordingly choose the color. But here with AI, what happens is it understands based on the field name which you are filling in. Based on the field name, it will automatically understand the data. For example, I have my savings account and I have to maintain minimum balance of 1000 rupees. The moment the balance goes below 1000 rupees, it will automatically detect it AI and put it in the red color so that the bank manager can understand okay, this particular person is not maintaining minimum balance. So that's how the AI powered dashboards are there. Then ML models, automated actions and AI agents. As I said, like AI agents we have discussed some time back with the example from Anthropic, right? They have created agentic AIs where the entire workflow can be added as a plugin. So those same things can be used with the data warehouse also. From the time we extract the data, load it, transform it, all the things can be put in a single workflow and an AI agent can be created for that one. Staging area queuing and data quality. So we discussed about the different rules. I cannot have a account number without a customer name. So that is an anomaly. So the data quality is not followed. So those all things can be automatically corrected by AI. So it cleans the data, and what happens is it cannot simply clean the data and delete it, right? Because I want to then show it to the management as well that okay, there is something wrong with this data. So it will pull the data into an error table, and that error table will be shown to the management saying that these are all some things which some action need to be taken. So that is where AI does it on its own. We don't need to write the rules; it comes upon its own. And then the core data warehousing, you have dimensional model, normalized model. So it will decide which model will be effective based on the organization requirements. And then you can see at every stage, right, ingestion layer, real-time streaming, and data marts. Everywhere we have AI integrated. And what happens is at the last, if you see on the right side, AI and machine learning layer. So it creates models, it trains the models. What is needed to train the model is large data. The more the data you have, the model will get trained on its own, and then it will become more and more effective. So the model training and then model deployment, embedded AI functions. So all these things, it will decide even the database size, how much size of the database you need, and whether you want to go for Teradata, whether you want to go for cloud. So these all decisions right now it is being taken manually based on understanding the size of the data, how much data I am storing. But Thus, in future, and already it is happening in some organizations, AI will help to make these decisions simpler. Based on it will give you all the inputs to the AI, and it will suggest that okay, based on the requirements you are saying, it might be used. It may be better to go with the Oracle. It might be better to go with Snowflake or Databricks, any database, whatever you want. So it will suggest that what is the best way based on all the cost, how much cost it is, and whether you will be getting profit at the end using the database or not. So natural language querying and then internal governance. So what do you mean by natural language querying is today, as I said, like the reporting for the senior executives, you have to create the reports, manually generate the reports and send to them in an email, or you create a dashboard and show it to the dashboard on a dashboard. But then what will happen is with the AI, the executive, the CEO organization just gives a voice command. You don't need to even type it. Give a voice command asking the computer, show me all the last quarter results. And then it shows up like what is the total profit I received, what is the total revenue which I have, and all those things. Then again he can further say, okay, take it to the particular branch, or take it show me at a more granular level. You can just pass the voice command. You don't need to write a query and get the data. Earlier, what used to happen is if that kind of requirement is there for a CEO of the company, he has to pass on the requirements to the IT team. They need to code that and then they bring the data and then show it to the organization's senior executives. But now, just with a voice command, you can see all the data within minutes. That is the ability of AI in the using natural language querying. So it's that because the CEO may not need to write a C program or a SQL query or everything, right? The CEO might simply talk in a natural language, in a plain English. So the command is being passed in a plain English. At the back end, all the language LLMs will be running in, and that will be showing the data that is needed for that. And intelligent governance, as we said, like taking sensitive data, if somewhere that sensitive data is being exposed, it will be auto corrected, and what data maskings and role creations, everything will be done automatically using AI. That's the warehouse capabilities, AI power which we are seeing in the data warehousing. Yeah, so I'll take a pause there, and if you have any questions on data warehousing or AI, you can discuss. Otherwise, I will be going to the next topic, which is being asked, like what exactly is being expected from all of you to get into the software industry. Anybody have any questions till now? Okay, I think we'll complete this slide and then come to the proper question and answers as well. So whoever has the aspiration in getting into the software industry, like what exactly will be needed to get into the organization? I think that's the question which all of you might be interested. See, when any organization comes to a particular college for recruitment or getting and taking people into their organization, they know very well that you are being trained, but it's more of a theoretical knowledge. Most of the times, even in India currently, most of the organizations may not be having that level of the practical training that is happening. Even though we have labs and we are doing the practical trainings over there, it may not be enough from an organization's perspective. It's more from a learning perspective only. When you get in the actual world, the environment will be completely different. So that's where what exactly the organizations expect is more from a logical thinking. This is the base for anybody like who want to get into the organization. The moment you have very good logical reasoning, logical skills, right, you will be able to do any task. It's a simple logical thing which we want to do. So if I want to say like how I want to get sum of 10, one person might come and say 6 plus 4 is 10. Another person might come and say 5 plus 5 is also 10. So we need to understand that there are multiple ways to get a value of 10 by adding two numbers. That is what is the logical thinking, right? So you need to understand one to get a particular output, what are the different ways through which I can achieve. So that logical thinking is primarily being evaluated from all of you guys, because That's the basic thing, and which you have gone through already in your courses. And agility and adaptability. So how agile you are, how adaptable. Basically, so we used to have a concept called as software development life cycle, right? So we used to have requirements gathering, and then we need to code it, and then we need to load the data, and then test it and give it to the business, the regular SDLC cycle. But now after agile has come, the processes have changed, the speed got increased. So what the industry thinks is whether you are well accustomed with the current topics that are going in the organization, like across the organization, the software industry. So if you are still saying that okay, I will go with the SDLC cycle, people might think that oh, you are still stuck in the few years back, and there is something that have come up called agile. Are you not aware of agile? So those questions will come up. So that is where you have to continuously learning the things. So whatever is coming up in the organization, so they will try to evaluate to see whether you are following the industry trends or not. Currently, what is in focus, and whether you are aware of it, and whether you have done anything related to that one. So few years back, probably somebody might ask you to write a C program. So today also, if you say I will write a C program, then they will think you are outdated. So you need to understand today it is all AI, it is machine learning. So you need to learn about it, machine learning and AI and everything. So whether you got used to that, whether you are aware of it, those things is what the organization will see. It will see like they are up to the continuous learning or not, because the industry is quite dynamic. It keeps on changing every day. And the last thing that I would say is the questioning the status quo. So like what it means is if a thing is happening in a particular way, why is it happening only this way? Is there any better way I can do it? If I want to achieve a result, there's a laid down process. I have to follow step 1, step 2, step 3, then I will get into the last output whatever I needed. So what in questioning status quo, I will say like why I have to go only these steps. Like is there any other way through which I can do it in a much better way, much optimized way? Those things is what is being needed once you get into the industry. Because if you are getting used to it and stuck in the same environment, the evolution will never happen. We would not have seen AI, right? So nobody would have thought. For example, when Amazon came in, you have a website, you add the cards. So you add a particular product to your account. Let's say you are trying to find a mobile. So then what Amazon is doing, it is suggesting you, okay, you are searching for mobile. Next time when you log in, it will say last time you searched for mobile, so you might be interested in mobiles. It will automatically show all the list of mobiles. It will show according to your cost as well. So that kind of questioning, that's questioning of status quo. So if I go to a physical shop and try to pull something, then that questioning of status quo will never happen, right? You will take the same product again and again. So, but then the organizations will become stable at one moment. They may not be seeing profits and everything. So if I do things in a different way, people might be interested. My business will grow. So that kind of questioning of status quo, you have that ability or not? Do you have that intention or not? Is what the organizations will try to judge based on that, because that will lead to the development of the software. Otherwise, we would not be seeing AI today. Yeah. So, any questions from anybody?
I am from TCS area. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah,
Yes.
good.
I am Lukawa Manahem from BCS Academia, and I have some doubts regarding my future as well. Yeah, I would ask. The first question is: are we required or expected to have any kinds of intermediate or advanced skill regarding coding or any kind of skills like HTML or something like that? Yes.
Sorry, what skill is that?
Regarding any kind of coding skill, are we required to have
Queries.
uh, coding?
Coding.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we expected to have an intermediate or any advanced skill on that?
Okay. Okay. So as I have said, like whenever any organization comes to you for a recruitment or anything, they know very well that you are still learning and it's all theoretical knowledge you have. So outright they may not be expecting the coding from you, but it depends on what line of education you are in. For example, because this is all BCA, right? I don't know, but generally if you take engineering, if people are from mechanical engineering or civil engineering, they want to come into the computer industry, they know that mechanical is more of a different work and they may not be doing much coding in the college. They will be learning things. So they will not be expecting that much coding from mechanical people. But at the same time, if there is a computer engineering student, they will definitely expect. So because you are all BCA students, right? They will expect at least basic things. They might ask you at least to write a code for so and so requirement. They will ask that. But will they ask for advanced versions? They may not ask for it. But if you provide the advanced version of coding using, like for example, today I can write I can write a program in C, and at the same time I can write a program in Python also. So if you write a Python program, what they will do, they will simply pose a question. I want this output. Write a program for it. They may not say you write it in C, you may write it in Python. Then it depends on what you are writing. If you write in C and versus what you write in Python, obviously the person writing in Python will score and have a better score. So it's always advantageous. I would say it is advantage, but it's not a needed skill for sure.
Thank you very much, sir.
I request you, please use the mic, sir, because holding mic long time.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, dear students, the sir is ready for your answers. Please ask any questions if at all you want to know about the industry, or if you have any other doubts technically, you can ask. Sir has to answer.
Yeah, I mean, it can be any question, so don't feel bad that you're asking.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Sanjay from TCS second year. How do you decrease the load database or data warehouse specifically?
Okay, it's a good technical question. Okay. So when you say load, I would expect it's more from a processing perspective, right? So when you write a query and you're storing the data, so there are different ways in your storing the data. And if I want to reduce the load on the database, right now let's say if I'm a bank and I have 1 million customers, so there might be some customers who have been very old and they may not be actively coming to the bank and asking some questions or other things. So what will happen is the data might have been stored for them, related to them. It may be their address or anything. You have stored it around 15-20 years back. So what will happen? We have a concept called as data archival, where you archive the data. So you don't store it in the database. You will put it into tapes. You archive the data, put it into tapes, and set aside so that the actual database which is retrieving the data will be having lesser data. The lesser the data, the more fast the query that returns the output. So there is called, at the same time, the archival means we are not deleting it. We are just taking the data from the database, putting on tapes and storing it somewhere. In future, because you never know, that customer might come back again someday and ask for something. We should have the ability to answer their questions at that time. Only thing is at those times it might take little bit more time to provide them the data they are asking, because we stored it in tapes. We need to restore it back to the actual database and then retrieve the data. But yeah, that's how we manage the data. Archival is a pretty interesting concept, and there are rules also how you want to archive. It's like there are even RBI guidelines are there, especially for banking. Like if the customer, even in account, right, they will be getting a message. If I open account, I don't use it for 3-4 years, I'll be getting a message saying that your account is becoming inoperative. So what will they will put all kind of this data into a tape and store it in an archival place and reduce the database load.
Yeah, I have another thought. How the data replicas decrease the traffic of a server.
Traffic of a server. Yeah, that's what I said. Like because you are say tape storing it on a tape, right? It's not related to any server anymore. You have to again retrieve it back. Put the server tape data into back into the server. Then only you will be able to retrieve. That's how the traffic gets reduced.
Thank you, sir.
Sir?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Bhargavi from TCS IT Manager. So, as you're a recruiter, what are the expectations from the fresher you're expecting? Like, the fresher mentions all the skills in the resume, and he or she can learn all the skills and can answer in an interview. But it may be true or false. So, as an interviewer, what are the expectations that the fresher should showcase or answer?
So as I have said, like everybody who is coming for recruiting, generally they know that you are more on a theoretical perspective. So they will look at the approach, how we are approaching the question. So if I have asked, say, get me the random number, write a query to get the random numbers. So they will see how you are approaching. The approach, you go step by step approach, create the query. So they will see, because syntax is something which you can get it even on Google or something and write the query using the syntax. But are you in the right approach? Because syntax, there will be hundreds and thousands of syntax. You may not be able to remember everything, and especially if you don't read it right, you might be forgetting the syntax and everything. So they will see the approach, whether you are approaching the problem in the right direction or not, whether you have the required logical skills on how to solve the problem. And another important thing is the communication program and other things, because they know theory is different and practical is different. But at the same time, if it is from especially because you are all from TCA, right, computer applications, they will be expecting little bit more from you guys compared to the non-computer background people.
Thank you.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. I would like to ask one question from you. It would be helpful for our students as well as faculty also. Can you please let us know some of the challenges during your starting of your job, and then later on you would have had some of the promotions till your current position like a director. So what type of challenges at the beginning, maybe with your colleagues, or kind of environment, or kind of communication, as you told that you are from Vijayawada, and can you please share some of the real challenges, technically also, maybe coding point of view, or it may be some point of view, or how you try to upgrade yourselves, etc., etc. The main thing is real scenarios we would like to listen from you.
Okay.
Thank you.
In course of 2 years
So let me
mechanical you were
explain.
studying.
When
You
I
completed
joined
the
TCS initially, the first thing is we are being sent to a training program for 3 months in Trivandrum. After the training program is completed, they have given the actual posting. And organization, they do it very in north. And for the people in the north, they have given in south intentionally. So I am being given my posting in Mumbai. I am being asked to go to Mumbai. As a fresher, you don't have the ability to decide the location. You have to listen to what the organization says. So I had no choice. I had to go to Mumbai. Few people tried to discuss and come to a conclusion that they want this location only. But yeah, they have been told that you don't have the choice. It's the organization's choice. That's it. Once I reached Mumbai, then we are all being like we went around 30-40 people. We went as a batch to Mumbai. And then we were being asked to sit in a room, and one head of the department person has come, and they are like just casually they asked